It's crazy how much someone can change their face and still expect people to see the same person underneath. Meghan Markle has always been smart about her image, but lately the changes are almost like a complete rewrite of who she is. The Meghan who once proudly talked about her Markle nose, even thanking her dad for it in a sweet Father's Day post, is gone. Now her nose is sleeker, more lifted, the bridge smoother, the tip shorter. It's a whole different shape. And it's not just the nose. You can tell there's filler along her jaw, in her cheeks, even near the hairline. All carefully placed to pull everything upward. It's that move people do in the mirror when they want to see how they look with everything lifted. Except hers stays that way because it's filled and shaped. What makes it interesting is the reason behind it. On the surface, sure, you could say it's just beauty upkeep, but look a little deeper and it looks more like she's trying to distance herself from her roots. That old post to her father wasn't just about Father's Day. It was about who she was. She connected her nose, her features to her dad, to a working-class background, to a version of herself that wasn't polished into Hollywood royalty. Fast forward to now, and it feels like she's surgically erasing any reminder of that connection. It's not just a beauty change. It's an entire rebrand. The timing of these changes is almost as telling as the changes themselves. Her public circle has shrunk to a tiny handful of people, and the ones still around seem more like PR helpers than real friends. Her recent birthday is a perfect example. The setting was dinner at a Beverly Hills spot that's known, but no longer the hottest place in town. Funky. An Italian restaurant with a decent rating and a Michelin guide mention, but not a Michelin star. The kind of place you'd expect an influencer to tag. Not someone supposedly operating at the peak of Hollywood importance. Even more awkward, she didn't get a table at the rooftop, the most wanted section of the place, which says a lot about her current status. She posted about the night like it was a major event, thanking family for making it special. But when you look closely, who's actually there? Not her dad. Not her mom, Doria, who by all accounts has distanced herself from Meghan's daily life. Not even Harry, who's mysteriously absent from both the dinner and any recent public moments with her. Instead, the pictures show her with a few chosen guests. The angles carefully picked to block out others at the table. The whole thing feels planned, not in a glamorous way, but in a way that hides more than it shows. And then there are the birthday messages she shared. They read less like real notes from friends and more like pre-written PR scripts. Everyone hits the same points, calling her fun, generous, magical, as if they were all given the same talking points. There's almost no personal touch, no inside jokes, no warmth that would convince you these are real feelings. It's the kind of branding exercise you'd expect for a product launch, not a birthday. Which circles back to the bigger picture. Meghan's been replacing the personal with the fake for years, but the more her physical appearance changes, the more obvious the gap becomes between the image and the reality. Her face is smoother, sharper, more even than ever, but the life behind it feels smaller, less family, fewer real friends, and judging by the details she chooses to share, maybe fewer people she actually trusts. The surgeries and fillers might give her the fancy angles she wants, but they can't fill the empty seats at the table. The changes to her nose are the most obvious, but they're far from the only work she's had done. Look closely, and you see the structure of her face has been rebuilt in careful layers. Cheek filler has created that high, unbroken line from her temples down toward the round parts of her cheeks, erasing the natural hollows she used to have. Filler in the jawline has squared it off just enough to look sharper in photos, and the skin along her lower face looks pulled without the obvious signs of a full facelift. Even her forehead has a fullness to it now, the kind you don't get from drinking water alone. It's a carefully planned combination, not the overfilled look that screams plastic surgery, but precise enough to change the way light hits her face entirely. This kind of transformation isn't just about beauty standards, it's about control. Every placement of filler, every adjustment to the nose or jaw changes how people see you. She's building a version of herself that looks more refined, more upper class, the sort of face you might expect to see in a fancy family portrait. And the thing about that look is that it doesn't happen naturally for someone from her background. It has to be made. Her public outings have started to show this manufactured image too. The restaurant choice for her birthday may have been on purpose, but it backfired in its own way. Funky's reputation as a place to be seen is several seasons old, and while its pasta might still be good, the excitement has long moved elsewhere. The fact that the last celebrity sighting of note there was Kim Kardashian in October 2023 says a lot about how far behind the trend cycle it's fallen. Choosing it might have been meant to suggest being exclusive, but instead it gave off the impression of chasing a scene that's already moved on. The look of the guest list were just as telling in a life that's supposedly filled with high-profile connections. The visible guests were few, and the framing of the photos seemed intentional in keeping them unclear. One image even blocked out a guest entirely with the angle of a candle, as if their presence wasn't meant to be part of the story. There's guessing about who some of these guests were. Marcus Anderson's name floats around, as does Abigail Spencer's, but the absence of her closest blood relatives and her husband stood out more than anyone who might have been there. And then there's the language of the birthday tributes. Abigail Spencer's message described her as champagne in human form and a creature unlike any other. Phrases so fancy they feel more like ad copy than friendship. Another friend's note hit every PR bullet point, plugging her Netflix show's upcoming season, praising her generosity, calling her love and light, but said nothing about actually spending time with her. It's all surface shine, perfectly on brand, but empty of the kind of closeness you'd expect between real friends. All of this fits into a pattern. The settings are planned, the company is limited, and the words spoken about her seem practiced. It's the kind of life where the image matters more than the real stuff, where appearances, both physical and situational, are adjusted until they match the story you want to tell. The irony is that in trying so hard to sculpt this perfect, untouchable version of herself, she's made the gaps in her world even more noticeable. The sharper her jawline gets, the blurrier her real connections seem to become. The main question is whether these changes come from feeling insecure, strategy, or both. There's a certain desperation in constantly changing the outer shell, as if a more photogenic nose or a perfectly shaped jawline could rewrite the public's opinion. It's the mindset of someone who believes acceptance is earned through appearance rather than being real. The irony is that physical perfection, or trying to get it, often highlights the very insecurities it's meant to hide. When every angle is planned, every photo checked, and every social moment staged, it creates a wall between the person and the people they're trying to win over. Public figures who lean too hard into planning risk losing the messiness that makes them relatable. In her case, the polish has come at the expense of warmth. The absence of candid moments, a quick laugh caught off guard, a casual group photo without perfect lighting makes it harder to connect with her as anything other than a brand. And a brand can be admired, even envied, but it's rarely loved. That missing element of love, the genuine kind that can't be bought or sculpted, seems to be what she's been chasing through these cosmetic changes. The lack of visible family ties fuels the perception of being alone. People can understand complicated relationships, even breakups, but when the closest bonds appear broken without explanation, it leaves a hole. Her father is publicly out of the picture. Her mother, once a constant presence, is nowhere to be seen. The children, who might have been the emotional centerpiece of any birthday celebration, are clearly absent from the festivities. Even her husband's presence is a question mark, reduced to a passing mention without a single shared image. In an age where even the most private celebrities offer glimpses of their inner circle, that kind of silence speaks loudly. For someone who once positioned herself as relatable and down-to-earth, the shift toward being exclusive has been steep. The gatherings now seem less like celebrations and more like PR exercises. Guests include people with their own public brands to maintain, and the interactions read as mutually beneficial networking rather than genuine friendship. The restaurant choice, the carefully worded tributes, the precise camera angles, all are moves in a game where perception is everything. The cosmetic work fits neatly into this framework. By changing features linked to her family heritage, she's not just refining her look, she's editing the visual record of her origins. The Markle nose her father gave her was a real connection to her past, one she once celebrated openly. Its disappearance is symbolic of a broader erasing, a shedding of anything that doesn't align with the elite persona she's building. This isn't unusual in high-profile circles, but the speed and extent of her transformation make it particularly striking. What's left is a version of her that feels caught between two worlds. She's sculpted herself to look like she belongs in fancy settings, Yet the social power that usually comes with that look seems just out of reach. The rooftop tables remain out of reach. The A-list gatherings sparse. The admiration she appears to seek from certain circles is lukewarm at best, filtered through polite but distant compliments. It's an in-between space where the image says exclusive, but the reality hints at something more shaky. If the goal was to become untouchable, she's succeeded, but perhaps in the wrong way. Untouchable in beauty, yes, but also untouchable in the sense that fewer and fewer people seem genuinely close to her. The edges of her life, like the edges of her face, have been sharpened, defined, perfected. Yet perfection can be cold. And in the pursuit of an image that leaves no room for flaws, she may have also left no room for the kind of connection that can't be staged.